cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul's awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. Michelle Melendez, 5 times award-winning author of The Death of Freedom with a Foreword by G. Edward Griffin. And she also wrote The Great Maui Land Grab. Joins me, Brad Wozny, to connect the Maui directed energy weapon terrorist attacks, as said by the chief of the Hawaiian people, the Los Angeles Palisade fires, property rights, insurance fallout, and what she argues is a broader assault on freedom, land ownership, and the future of America. President Trump just this week publicly blasted insurers, singling out State Farm over wildfire claims. And this conversation, as we still see today in Maui, preventing landowners from returning to their homes, which were burnt to the ground 2.5 years ago in that terrorist attack. Michelle is going to tell us why she believes these man-made disasters are about far more than fire. It's from directed energy weapons raining down absolute hell on these communities in a demonic exercise by deep state elements as ritualistic sacrifice to enforce control and pave the way to 15-minute city agendas promoted by the WEF Luciferians. This requires accountability plus action to save America. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Sovereign Soul Show. All of you divine lions and lionesses, I'm your host, Brad Wozny. As you know, we stand for love, levity, liberty. That's our creed. And as a Reiki master over a decade, practicing 24, well, now it's actually 25 years, I think about it. Love is the greatest power in all of the universe. And of course, we're joined again by our mascot, the Bling Buddha, who fires red pills awakening from his Sig 226 9mm with a Punisher tattoo over his left breast, symbolizing save the children. And once again, just as a reminder, as I mentioned about the Reiki Master aspect and frequency and light that you can shoot from your hands, healing hands, and this is all proven by science, EMF, you name it. There's a lot of other things that have been hidden from us in history. So once again, you see some of the hats that I've worn, or as well as a Canadian infantry soldier in a beret, when I thought that Canada, and I went in voluntarily as an infantry soldier, I thought Canada was a country, a sovereign nation. It's not. Again, it's a crown corporation registered in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, the city, state, its own 10 square mile area. And even still today, if you went to the SEC.gov, Securities Exchange Commission, SEC.gov, you will see the headquarters for the country of Canada at the Canadian Embassy in Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington. And then, as you also know, I have been a wildfire fighter. I was very blessed to be an Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources fire ranger. I jumped out of helicopters. That was our fire engine, as you can see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, sitting there. And in that job, which was the most amazing job I've had in my life, it was incredible, flying around Ontario and the Yukon, putting out forest fires. I can tell you with all the directed energy weapons, like Canadians will remember Jasper, many of you who are also part of the Alliance of Indigenous Nations and all of that, as well as my guest, which has brought forward the book, that there are directed energy weapons used in China, hundreds around the world. And it's been used for years. And the last time that people will really remember that, and I also had this history, if you recall, that at Ground Zero, as rescue efforts were going on, they used directed energy weapons and thermite to destroy and take down the 3, not 2, because it said, where did the towers go? 3 World Trade Center towers collapsed in their footprint. And then, as I was the individual who was then flown up to the Pentagon, who has a podcast and speaking about it now, and then was later, as you can see on the screen, at the lectern 12 minutes after Rumsfeld gave one of his press conferences. I eventually was 18 stories below it, but it was a missile that they shot into the Pentagon. We have all the emails. I was working for the company. Everybody remembers we're in Black at that time. We have all the emails in the Network Operations Center and my clients in New York City, Pentagon, DOD, and the teams I was part of as well. Missile shot in the Pentagon. The only man or woman on the face of this planet that is out there speaking today, whom all of you will know, Wano Savin, verified it was an Israeli sub that surface Michelle, thanks for hanging out. They nuked my entire connection saying all that. So we were definitely in a war if people didn't realize that, and still going on right now. So thank you for your patience. That was a good nearly 3 minutes.
I know, I saw that.
The edit on Apple and we get to the podcast, it'll be great. We're still at least live. And so everybody, thank you for hanging in there. This is information they don't want out whatsoever. The bad deep state is still here with us. So Michelle, not the type of introduction I was planning on having done for you, but welcome to the show.
Mahalo so much for having me. I really appreciate just podcasters like you that keep going, keep the word out, because that's what we need. And we need numbers, everybody. You know, I've been fighting this, what's going on, what happened to Maui, what happened to LA, what happened to North Carolina, all of it. What recently happened to Oahu recently with the Hawaii storms, which were not normal at all. That's all coming for all of us. It's coming through our general plans. We can talk about that later, but we do need to be speaking out, and it needs numbers. So you guys watching, thank you so much. And also you've got to be looking at what's coming through your legislative body and your general plan. And I can tell you how to do that later.
Yep. Outstanding. Thank you. And Michelle, since I was literally just leading up to it, the fact that, you know, frequency can be used benevolently or malevolently, you really came to light. Your multiple books, 5-time award-winning author, which is incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's amazing. The Great Maui Land Grab, the photos and what you shared there, you know, to me speaks volumes, because visual overrides auditory. And then, you know, that's still being dealt with today. Then there was just another directed energy weapon and a weather warfare attack on Oahu
Yep.
And people need to be 100% cognizant of it. It's more than just chemtrails, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%. So I can show you guys the picture, some of the pictures from the Great Maui Land Grab book. This is a presentation I did at the Red Pill Expo with G. Edward Griffin. It's one of the reasons why he did the foreword for this book. But I want to start actually up here. This was in 2017. These are not normal fires. When a fire goes and just dissolves into white ash houses but leaves the entire forest, that's not a forest. That's why they change it to wildfire, not forest fire, because the fire is not touching the forest. This is at Paradise. My mother lives in Chico. I went up to Paradise after the fire they had. This was a trailer park that just completely dissolved all of the mobile homes into nothing. Like there's no fridge, no stove, no toilet. Everything's gone except the forest. So that's not normal. Then we have Maui with all the palm trees still standing, but melted cars, homes dissolved into white ash, not normal. And then this is an LA fire. When I saw this behind a reporter, and she didn't say anything about the trees still standing up, I just was like, how can she report on this and not say, but all the trees in the neighborhood survived? You know, that's just not normal. There was, and I'll share this here, the Direct Energy Weapons Systems Acquisition Act. Let's see if this is right here. I think
there's an act for dues.
Yes, Direct Energy Weapon Systems Acquisition Act. Can you see that, Brad?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. This is what I want to show you is right down here is the bill, the text right here. It says the Committee of Armed Services in the Senate noted in a report that since the 1960s, you guys, since the 1960s, they spent over more than $6 billion in direct energy science and technology, more than $6 billion, and they couldn't bring the program to fruition. They couldn't. So it says right here, the department's direct energy initiatives are not resourced at levels necessary to transition them into full acquisition programs. So even though they spent over $6 billion in the 1960s, they still couldn't bring the whole program to fruition. So Congress took it over. That was 2016. And if you still pay taxes, your tax dollars help to finish and fund the Direct Energy Weapons program. And this program is in full force, in my opinion, and has absolutely been destroying so many places. Maui, LA, Myrtle Beach over there, Paradise, so many places.
Jasper, Alberta.
Yeah, the list is long. Yeah, and I want to just say too, this is not about fear. It's not about to be afraid. I believe this is what we signed up for. I believe this world is not what we think it is, and we came here. It's what we say here in Hawaii, our kuleana. What is ours to do? What is your kuleana is doing these podcasts. Mine is writing books and getting the word out that way, and also helping people to take action against the demons that are in their county council and in government. But what's our kuleana is to see the truth and then to speak up. The founding fathers had three goals for this country. One was to keep the government small. That died after the Civil War, which basically expanded government because of the taxes for their income taxes. That was not supposed to be part. That was not in the Constitution. It was not supposed to be part of this country. But the founding fathers wanted small government. Then the second thing they wanted was the government to support and protect and defend the Constitution. You guys, our government officials, the legislative body, governor, and all of these people are supposed to, their number one job is to defend our freedoms. That's it. If they make a rule or a law that goes against our freedoms, that's null and void, but only if the people step up. And that's the third goal for the founding fathers, was that people, living men and women, would stay civically engaged. And there's a reason why it's so boring and they don't want us to really step forward and see what's going on. But we have been here in Hawaii, and we're actually making a pushback, and we're making a difference.
Well, your governor, who, seems to support. I remember right after the attacks, you have Oprah and the guy who openly admits to eating children and says it like it's a joke, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who, years before going, wow, it was amazing. He's up and coming. That's great. I think he's a great guy. And then he talks about eating children, eating children, eating children. And there's more than a dozen clips of different situations where he talks about eating children. And he laughs it off. Nobody makes a joke like that. And then he does a Saturday Night Live clip. They were out there after the attacks raising money for themselves. So you have a multi-billionaire in Oprah, and then you have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson from the islands raising money for themselves. But we also saw that didn't go to the people. We saw, maybe it was police or deputy sheriffs, FEMA as well, that was blocking landowners, property owners who had just lost members of their family and their homes from returning back there. So what's the situation now as we just kind of build this chronological story into what is happening over the last 2 years?
Yeah. There's been billions of dollars that have been given to Maui County to rebuild Lahaina. And so many people have not gotten any funding. In fact, there were actually construction workers walking off the job because they weren't getting paid. And Ellie Cochran, who is the state representative for Lahaina, she grew up in Lahaina. She survived the fire. In fact, she was the one that called the Maui fire chief and said, do we need to evacuate? And the chief was off island. He said, why? He wasn't even contacted about the Lahaina fire. And he goes, let me call you back. Calls her back in a couple minutes, says, yes, evacuate. She literally survived the fire. I think it finished off like 2 blocks down from past her house. But she, so there was that. There was so many things, you guys. That's the reason I wrote this book. This was not in my wheelhouse of things to do. My background is a fitness and wellness trainer. My first book was End Dieting Hell. And when the Maui fire happened, I had so much evidence that something was wrong. I knew if I didn't put it in a book, it would be gone. It would be gone. And it was, and it has been, there's people, there's bodies in this book that you'll see that are not normally burned. Like people don't burn where you recognize the body. There was a little boy who, this was the saddest part. He died holding his dog on his bed. Both the dog and the little boy were recognizable. And the mother said she thinks God left him that way so she would remember him. And I'm sorry, but that's not how bodies burn. This was not a normal fire. So what happened was the Lahaina fire survivors are in 2 different camps. There's a FEMA camp. There's a state camp. There have been issues with these camps. There have been people who have died in these camps with no reporting. And one person was found, and I hate to say this, it breaks my heart, but they were found decomposing in their tiny house. They made these tiny houses $400,000 a piece. The governor, he suspended laws. He suspended a bidding law. There was somebody on the Hilo side, on my island, the big island, the Hilo side, that actually put in a bid, $40,000 a unit for tiny houses for the Lahaina fire survivors. And he didn't get it. It was the bid wasn't even acknowledged. And this bid was $400,000 per tiny house. That looks like a fish bowl. It's one of Elon Musk's all glass bowl tiny houses. And there are issues with these homes. There's issues with the septic. And I'm hearing about this from Ellie Cochran, my friend, who state representative. And there was also a boy who died in his sleep. There was somebody who died of a heart attack. We do know those 2 things. There was another person who died, and Ellie Cochran actually contacted the police department, Maui Police Department, and asked, "Is anybody reporting on this death?" And she was told there's nothing nefarious happening in the Lahaina fire survivor camps. Okay, first of all, she didn't ask that question. That's not what she asked. She asked, has anybody reported on this? And that's the answer she got back. So obviously there's something nefarious happening with this.
It seems like Jeffrey Rath is the chief counsel for the Alberta independence movement. And a week ago, it came out about the RCMP, and everybody's everybody who wants to be aware that chooses rather than ignorance, watching their, soccer, football, baseball games, continuing to turn a blind eye to 6 massive years of open warfare on us. When they talked about the RCMP in Alberta, he said, yeah, we used to have police stations. Now it's called Chinese military bases, known as RCMP detachments. So that is a perfect parallel to draw here, that you have many members of law enforcement, or maybe even entire municipalities of cops who are supposed to protect the law, even on the sheriff's department, who have the ultimate constitutional privileges and power to enforce law, who are not, and who are 100% against the people in certain cases. And this definitely sounds like that is continuing years later.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the fire, and so here's a lot of people don't know, is that right after the fire, 10 days after the fire, there was a 5-mile long, 12-foot high dust screen approved before it got funded. 10 days after the fire, it was 10 days prior to getting funded. It was $2.3 million. And they put it around the entire perimeter of Lahaina. And I asked a fire captain who's in my book, Captain Matt, I said, is this normal to put a 5-mile long dust screen around the entire burn zone? He goes, Michelle, nothing about this fire was normal. They didn't let media in for 30 days. They didn't let homeowners back to their homes for 90 days. And it, there's so many things. In fact, you're going to love this one. We are still in the state of emergency because of wildfires. The governor has signed over 90 emergency proclamations, suspended hundreds of laws without legislation, and he keeps signing them over and over again. Since the Maui fire, we have been, for 2.5 years, we have been under a state of emergency, and all it says is wildfires. There's no wildfires happening in Hawaii, the state of Hawaii. But we have this man, I mean, I could keep going, but we have an emergency proclamation right now because there's too many deer in Maui. And he has suspended for that one, he suspended, I believe it was 13 laws for that one. For the wildfire emergency proclamation that is still going on, 71 laws have been suspended without legislation. So what I've done is I've written an impeachment inquiry because the Hawaii people cannot impeach the governor. We can't, but we can tell our legislative body we need an impeachment inquiry to look at this because he's overstepping his office. And that's what I've done. And we keep sending it. So it does take numbers. Sometimes it feels like our efforts are futile, but I believe that we're here for a reason. The bravest of the brave came, and we're just doing the work that we're guided to do.
Where's Oprah? Where are Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Where are all those people in Hawaii, like the Dells that have places, that Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, of the Silicon Valley ones? They have billions of dollars worth of property there. How come they're not pitching in?
Oh, I have something better for you.
Dying in their time.
There's between 30 to 40 billionaires that own property in Hawaii. 30 to 40 billionaires own property. And yeah, exactly. Why aren't they helping? In fact, the place that just flooded in Oahu, where the water just sat on Oahu, and that's not normal, you guys. Kauai goes Kauai, Oahu, Maui, Big Island. Kauai is the wettest place, one of the wettest places on earth. It gets 400 to 600 inches of rain a year. It barely got touched by this storm. And Oahu, the last largest agriculture land on Oahu, is what got flooded. Okay. And so that's not normal. And also, when you get storms here in Hawaii, they come down or they go up. Come down from Kauai, or they come up from the Big Island. Oahu, Maui, and Big Island all got hit at the same time. That's not normal. That's not normal.
No, not at all. I've had the pleasure of many times being Hawaii, Maui. myself and Kauai at least twice. And then the very first show I did with Michael Jaco years ago, he looked at me and went, "You're an old soul from Lemuria." And I totally resonate with that, and have for quite some time prior to him saying that on a public show. Yet it seems that because of the sacred nature of the islands, of the people, from the actual history of the thousands to maybe millions of years of the people, what it stood for, it kind of seems like it's a last bastion for the deep state in that area of the Pacific right now. And it's still disgusting to me. And I appreciate you, Michelle, continue to bring this out. We're still going to go to your next book, Death of Freedom, because this is a way to build the storyline for everybody to realize we haven't seen anything change since they brought the towers down. And then there's other events too. They were smaller, but it's still inside jobs. And the Great Maui Land Grab book you're seeing on the screen here is about eradicating people and taking the property and stuffing everybody into 15-minute cities. And remember that I had people on the show here 3 years ago for China, and there was 140 cities and municipalities that had signed up to the 15-minute city program for the World Economic Forum agenda. This is part of that 15-minute city agenda. Like Jasper, Alberta, that came in, and I literally had it, everybody. Some of you might remember this in the audience. I was there last year, and once again showing you, hey, how is it that a gas station immediately bursts into flames, blows up, burns down to a crisp in a mere moments, but you can't touch the trees around you are still green. The grass is green, but anything that had the color blue, because of the blue diamond technology that's used in the crystalline structure to create these lasers, which are mobile deployed, marine deployed, and also airborne deployed, as well as satellite deployed weapon platforms, those things won't burn them, those certain things. Like people can jump into the water and they can be saved by getting into water, which we saw in Maui en masse back then. But, or people going in their swimming pools, or people who had painted their roofs blue, or they had blue sheets over their roofs, almost like they knew what was coming, what was about to happen, to keep their property safe and secure. So we still have these weather weapon, directed energy weapon, and biological, chemical, radiological COVID-19 weapon attacks, flu vaccines, you name it, anything mRNA in it. And we not only have to be aware, we have to take action. And it's everyone's civic duty, like you were mentioning, Michelle.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book, the Great Maui Land Grab, actually won 3rd place in the American Book Fest under true crime. It was the one contest I was really wanting to place, and it placed in true crime. And I just want to do another screen share because I want to show you guys the exactly what you're saying with the blue things that didn't burn. And then I want to show you the weather modification act. So this is thanks to Eric West. He is a real estate agent on Maui. He went there the day after. He pulls this paper ticket out of the ash. Can you see that okay, Brad?
The blue paper ticket. Yeah. If there's a way to increase it just a little bit more, because we have 2 screens. We have a vertical screen, and then we have the landscape, the portrait screen, and the landscape. Yeah. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So this is when he pulled this out, you guys, he just saw the top sliver of it, and he pulls it out, and the white ash is falling off of the paper ticket. And it's a submarine ride. And the only thing that's barely scorched is the picture of the whale, which is brown. Then he pulls these out of the ash, and there were about 6 cotton blue t-shirts, not one hole. They're in the white ash, not one hole, not one singe marked. He actually raffled these off and donated the money. Then, of course, there's the blue umbrellas. You know, the whole entire building gets destroyed right next to them, but the blue umbrellas, every single one, fine. And there's even a wooden board leaning on it. It still doesn't burn. And then there's this. This one is a friend of mine. She went back to her house the next day and saw her stove. All of the glass is melted out. You know, a wildfire burns between 12 to 1400 degrees, and to burn glass is about 2400.
I've been there and fought them. Yeah.
And inside, brand new blue, like you could, it just was like clean. It was just like, So then I want to show you guys this, because this was, this is the Weather Modification Act. And I want to, it's important to see this because see here, I want to go to, yeah, right there. Okay, here. Okay, this one here.
Mhm.
This is the so this is crazy. So this is the weather code of federal regulations. This is the weather modification, maintaining records and submitting reports on weather modification activity. And let me just tell you guys, everybody has to report except we're acting solely as an employee, agent, or independent contractor of the federal government. So you have to report on weather modification unless you're working for the feds. And here's the other thing I wanted to share with you guys. The activities subject to reporting, look at this, using lasers and other sources of electromagnetic radiation. That's number 8, using lasers. Okay. That's, I mean, it goes everywhere from cloud seeding up here, using fires or heat sources. There's so many things, but that was the main thing I wanted to share because that Weather Modification Act of 1976, that was an act of 1976 that was passed through Congress, and the reporting,
50
everyone,
years ago.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just blurting out loud. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah. So everybody except for the federal government has to report. And also the reporting isn't like 100% accurate. There's, if you change, it's not strict. So, and this is what blows my mind is you can do a whole weather modification project. Oh my gosh. Let me show you guys this too, because this is just totally disgusting. These are the states that had the weather modification projects. And July 2025, hopefully it's going to open up here. July 2025 was when Texas had its flooding. And okay, let me stop screen share and get this up and running for you.
Sure.
But that's exactly when the month July of 2025 was when Texas had the cloud seeding. So it was
kids were walked away from their summer Christian camp. Massive.
Yep. And let me show you guys this because I can actually show you the satellite images of what happened with the of what happened in Texas. And so here I want to show you guys this. Okay, you're going to see the weather coming down. You're going to see the storm coming south, and then you're going to see an explosion going against the wind. And this is in Texas. And I have the sound off because this is a video that I did. So you'll see it coming down. And then here, look, boom, that goes against.
Wow. It's literally like somebody's beaming a flashlight into it and moving it along.
Yep.
From a weather standpoint.
And that's Texas. That was the Texas flood right there. So it's, there's so many things. We have absolutely been attacked. And I'll just tell you one more thing. Our storm, I really feel there's something that's guiding us. And for those people who have had their homes destroyed, it's like I always do prayers. They're not alone. There's something that is supporting each one of us. But for myself, I was in a place. I actually moved 2 weeks prior to the storm, and that place I was in had a river literally almost wash out the road I was living right next to. Oh. So it was like being guided. It's like trust. There's something we need to go back to trusting in an infinite creator. And that can be whatever you believe, but follow your guided intuition. Your heart is always guiding you. It's not a mistake.
Amen to that. In the different backgrounds that I have, Michelle, the Sovereign Soul show that you see in the logo here, the O is a heart. And then I have the cross of Christ in the I for sovereign, but it's also mirrored as Archangel Michael's sword ready to draw. And then the O and soul is the tree of life. So yes, we have to get back to leveraging our prime creator in everything that we do and tapping in to the heart center and the heart mind, because that's where our true power lies, in the art of our heart from our soul standpoint.
100% for that. And plus doing that through action, because let me just say, like, I live on the Big Island, and we have our general plan. This was normally a general plan for Big Island is 50 to 60 pages long with 8 to 10 goals. It's 10 years long. This was 300 pages long, 400 goals, completely UN agenda alignment. And we were fighting it every single month for a year. And finally, we have a county council member that redesigned it, dropped it down from 306 pages to 69 pages with reasonable goals. And we have another meeting coming up next week that we'll be going to. So I just want to let everybody know, you are living in a place you are guided to live in. There's some reason you're there, and you have your kuleana, your job. Look at what's coming down your pipe. And one of the easiest ways to do it is to go to ChatGPT and say, what you put in your county, what is my county's general plan? I'm sorry, what constitutional amendments does my county's general plan violate? And I did this with Ann Vandersteel when I was live with her, and she did it right on television, or on the interview. And a list came up, and then you go and you fight that, you guys. You go to your county council members, you go to your general plan meetings, I talked to the mayor. The mayor actually called us a bunch of conspiracy theorists, and I kept bugging him until I got a meeting with him, brought a stack of documents showing how our general plan was violating the Constitution and how it would destroy the Big Island. And he actually paused the plan. He paused it. And I'm just a fitness trainer, you guys. I'm not somebody high up in government in any by any stretch of the imagination. But we can do this. This is our work to do, and we can do this.
Yep. In 2017, writs of quoranto were sent out to all 3,133 counties in the 50 states in the United States of America, reminding them what the Republic of America, not the corporation, would stood for. And that includes right down to the mayor's level, the administrator's level, the county clerk's level, that they can be held to account for sedition, treason, and also surreptitiously working against the greater good of the people, we the people of the American constitutional republic. So that is also something that can be leveraged. That's 2017. You can look it up. Valhalla, New York. Maybe when Cash said, "Oh, I'll see you in Valhalla," that meant something. But that writs of quoranto is extremely powerful because that goes right back. It was delivered to every single one of those counties, putting them all on notice, all the public officials, including all of law enforcement, police departments, policy enforcement, police departments, and sheriffs all across that. So that can also be leveraged when you go to your meetings and bringing the receipts, like Michelle, you were mentioning, wherever you are across the American landscape.
Yeah, at 100%. And you're guided, you guys. If you have an inkling, if something's pulling at your heartstrings, I should look up my general plan. Do it. There's a reason why your heart is guiding you, and it's telling you what to do. So, it is our kuleana to get this job done. And this is why we came here. This whole thing about getting a job, getting a white picket fence, that's all programmed into us. That has been programmed into us from the beginning. Our schooling system, which started in 1852, that was actually designed from Prussia.
Yes, the Prussian doctrine. That's the original charter.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
Keep going. Didn't mean to step in.
It was designed for the soldiers. It was because the king wanted soldiers that could read, but not have a mind that thought for themselves.
Not really be sovereign. Follow orders, take orders. This is your job. This is the way life is going to be. You're a good kind of robot.
That's right. And then Rockefeller took it over because he wanted factory workers. And that's the whole design. So get your children out of public school if and when you can, because that's all programming them to not have a mind, to just think like a robot.
And from the school bonds, the less children in the seats, the less the superintendent. Like, once again, we talk about this, the bonds that they have, the teachers, the school administrators, education system, remember everybody is an acronym, suck your soul, time, energy, and money. the system that the cabal, the deep state set up, the bloodlines of Cain, Khazarian mafia, going back millions of years to what they've been doing to us on this planet, on this earth, intergenerationally as well. But where we are right now is we're sitting here where it hurts them the most is money in the pocket first and foremost. So if the kids are coming out of the schools, like we saw with the maskings and the pronoun pounding, woke normies and the pedophile supporters and those who are actually unfortunately pedophiles, right, who are teaching kids who then were arrested because they had already had prior recorded arrests for sexual assault of children, then that hurts them financially. The superintendent who's making $350,000 to $400,000 a year. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? More than a beneficial nurse, a benevolent one, more than certain doctors, way more for sure than naturopaths and fitness trainers. But you pull kids out of the system, the bonds go down, and they are not rewarded for the head count. The less head count, the more that their job is going to be cut. Then if you catch them violating the Constitution or anything from the American Republic, then they can be held to account in a court of law and then an actual county jury from a republic standpoint, getting out of the bar system, going back to a divine natural common law, not the common law they've hijacked and tried to reset it up. The divine natural common law, which the original founders had set up here.
That's 100% agree with that. And I also want to say too, we had a big old No Kings rally around Trump this last weekend. And I'm like, I was so annoyed. I'm like, first, this war was planned 150 years ago. You guys, all of these wars, they have been planned for a very, very long time. You can actually look this up under the book called The Enemy Unmasked. It talks about the Illuminatiist Albert Pike, who wrote a whole letter that outlined every single world war. World War I, we took out the Tsar of Russia because they would not comply with the bankers. They said no to the bankers. World War II was about the nationalists of Germany and the Zionists, the political Zionists. And that was again, Germany was booting out. That's a whole really long topic on that one, but they planned that one. And then in World War III, this is written about right now in The Enemy Unmasked, which was published in 2004. And it talked about World War III and the political Zionists against the Arabs. And the political Zionists are everybody that supports Israel. And this is all by design. So when we had this huge No Kings rally, I was like, you guys, one, we don't have any power over what's happening locally, or I'm sorry, globally or nationally. We only have power locally. So I was like, where are you guys around no kings and no dictators around our own governor who's signed, suspended tons of laws without legislation, the Hawaiian Islands are in a state of emergency because of him. And nobody is really looking at that. And so our power is locally. What's happening globally, what's happening nationally is that's all by design. We do have small power, but our power is local. So keep fighting locally. Take a stand locally.
Yeah. You can do it right at the board level, the county board level, and the school board level, and they will run. We have seen videos of them when they're presented, as well as served notice, a lawful notice for actual violations. They abandon the meetings. We've even had that with judges in the British Accreditation of Registry Society systems. We've seen it in Canada as well. They vacate. They get up off the bench. They walk out. We've seen it in New York too. So you have the power with the knowledge for every man, woman listening to this broadcast or watching the broadcast or listening later on the podcast. And I want to talk then about the death of freedom and your book here, the latest one, which G. Edward Griffin, the man who wrote Creature from Jekyll Island, which was the massive scales fell from my eyes in the 90s when I was an infantry soldier, and 3,500 of us weren't paid for 10 months. And fortunately, I wasn't married then. I didn't have a family, but there were troops, and this is across the Canadian Armed Forces. So, we all Air Force and Navy, small Navy, but still. So 3,500 airmen, soldiers, and sailors were not paid for 10 months but they required you to continue to show up to work, show up to base, show up to field training exercises, show up in parade, get ready, train up, go overseas on the peacekeeping missions in Gaza and all the other places around the world to fulfill the NATO commitment, but you're not being paid. And I went, they don't have my back. They do not have my back. That it was G. Edward Griffin who wrote the foreword to your book that blew the lid off of truth, off the hidden truth rather, for me with the Federal Reserve System, the IRS, the FBI, and the ADL all came in under that 1913 Act and then set up the central banking system around the world where we heard Nayib Bukele say at CPAC 2 years ago, 2024 in February, that, well, who makes the money, who does the bonds, and why do you pay taxes? And the very simple, and everybody can find this clip of President of El Salvador, the guy who took the country that was the worst country for crime in the entire Western Hemisphere, North, Central, and South America, turned that around in 6 years or less. And now it's still the safest nation on the Western Hemisphere. Right now, still today, even with everything else going on, because of the craziness in America. And Venezuela is full-blown, the next Iran and Venezuela and Cuba, right? That Canada is next, 100%. Well, my point here with G. Edward Griffin and Nayib Bukele, because also Michelle brought it up earlier, if you are paying your taxes, you are funding genocide, you are funding child trafficking, you are funding satanic ritual abuse, you are funding terrorism if you pay income taxes, because now ignorance is a choice in an information age where Doge alone has shown your taxes in the IRS that get paid to fund cartels, terrorist, criminal activity. So therefore, you can legitimately make the conscious argument that you are funding terrorism by paying IRS income taxes, which never existed in 1913, which is a 16th Amendment, which was never ratified, which in subsection 601.602 says IRS income taxes are voluntary, which there is many whistleblowers and legal cases which have been proven in courts of law under the bar system itself that show that that is voluntary and it's a fraud upon the people. So we're in a Jubilee year, but there also is something about property taxes too. Can we talk about the death of freedom and build off of that? Why did G. Edward Griffin, who exposed and wrote Creature from Jekyll Island, write the foreword to your book? And what's in this book were some takeaway moments now while people are waiting for it to arrive? Because I imagine everybody's ordering it right now at thedeathoffreedom.com. And if you're elsewhere around the world, you can also do it on Amazon, but go straight to the author if you don't mind. Go support the author for that $15-16 to rent.
Right. Deathoffreedom.com. And so the reason why he did the foreword is he read the first couple of chapters, and he said that I had the history. He said I went so in depth into the history of how this country was taken over that he was really impressed with that. So he said yes to writing the foreword to that. But basically what it talks about is it talks about just exactly what you said. Was after the Civil War, the 16th Amendment with that federal income tax, that's what exploded the government. That's why I remember when I said the founding fathers had 3 goals. One was keep the federal government small. Well, that 16th Amendment is what blew it up because it had all this funding. And then the 17th Amendment, which talks about the fact that senators were supposed to go to Congress to represent their state. But after the 17th Amendment, that what happened was people started to elect them based on their party, and then they started going to Congress to represent their party, not to represent their state. That's also what happened with the takedown of the United States, because these parties, Democrat and Republican, I'm just going to say this. I think that I really feel they're both on the same page. I really do. There's a whole thing I can talk about with that. But so that's the first part of the Death of Freedom. It talks about how this country got taken. Then it talks about the death was the Patriot Act, October 26, 2001. That Patriot Act was written by Joe Biden. He actually brags about it. It was called another name. It was sitting on the shelf for quite a while before it actually got implemented. And it just, it went right through. It was like prior to 9/11, that act would never have gone through. And it literally turned all of the Americans into terrorists of the country, basically, is what it did. We're guilty until proven innocent now. And that's what happened with that. And then it goes into mind control from the CIA. People don't realize that we have been under mind control for a very long time, since the 1940s. And part of that is through the movies. They actually have a government office with Hollywood. So that's all by design. Yes. And then yep, the ancient law, that one is very important to understand. The banking system, which you talked about. I mean, when you look
I won't walk through you here. I was just trying to go to the mind control section. This is on the website, deathoffreedom.com. Links in the chat. It's right below the description. But this is also, here's what you will discover to break it down. So I didn't want to step on you and cut right in. I was trying to go to the mind control section, but if you'd like, you can walk us right through here. There's no rush. We've got time.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. So the ancient law, this is what the banking, the judgment, the courtroom is all about. When you look at the courtroom, why in the world is there like a gate that's in between, like where the people sit and then you walk in? What is that about? Nothing happens by accident. Nothing happens by coincidence. If it happens, it's meant to be that way. So there's a reason why. That's the bar. And then you talked about the bar earlier. So there's a whole chapter on it. Actually breaks down the whole entire courtroom and shows you what everything represents. And then the mind control, which is huge. And it's not only about what we talked about earlier with the schooling system, but it's actual mind control. There's a reason why the Congress wanted to change from analog to digital, is because that frequency controls your mind. There's a frequency that they know this. There's thousands of patents for mind control for mind control apparatuses and technology. So it goes over that, and then it also goes into non-disclosed experiments on the American people. So it's chemtrails is not the first one. COVID was not the first one. They've been experimenting on the American people for a very long time. I mean, there's even Operation Sea Spray, where they put a bacteria over San Francisco and they wanted to see how far it would go inland. And nobody was told about this. There was a man that ended up dying. There was a lot of people that had excuse me.
Yeah. This is also what a spiritual warfare attack, a demonic attack looks like, everybody, when you're discussing these issues. If you remember in the very beginning, I'm 5 minutes in, and all of this, you're talking about the dues and what it's done to people, and they killed everything. It wasn't just all the power went off. They nuked everything on me. And then Michelle stuck in here for the 2.5 minutes. Everything came back on. They just flipped the switch to let you know, like, yeah, we're watching. We've got you. But we're still getting after this. And then all of a sudden you had that attack on your throat. You're like, spiritually choking you. So we just did some law of encroachment prayer in my head that Bishop Jim O'Connor brings out. He's one of the greatest exorcists in the world, to clear the energy. Please continue.
Yeah. So just a lot of experiments on the American people. Excuse me for my throat, but it's important for us to see it and know what's happening, and then follow our heart to do what we can do. Yeah.
One of the comments: farmers now finding boxes of ticks in the Midwest, and they've been doing that on everything. Right. The food supply, alter the food supply, and do it all across. But you also have steps for hope in saving America, and as well, America can be saved in chapter 11. Yeah.
Okay, that one. There's 3 addendums. I give you citizen memorandums that you can use against climate change, chemtrails, and there's a third one. Oh, COVID. and the vaccine. There's actually 3 citizen memorandums that you can get signed and excuse me.
No worries.
Send to your legislative body.
Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, because now you basically have an instruction booklet. So you're sharing here the real story behind the climate change, the United Nations, as well as the patents that we mentioned earlier, because we had a Soul Troll is in here saying, oh, you guys are conspiracy theorists, but they're probably all dabbed and hooked up to the Internet of Things, as we know. And then the mind control patents, covering that off as well, plus how to protect yourself. And then again, this is not what the founders had envisioned. And I think this is one of the most powerful moments of awakening, the ancient law running America, not created by Congress, and the corporate coup of 1871, which is remarkable. Not being taught in schools for a good reason, because we know which family took over the schools and what family owns the Houghton Mifflin publications, which are in all the schools in all the Commonwealth countries. And yes, after 1871, America is a Commonwealth corporation country.
Well, I'd love to share that with you real quick too, if I can.
Yeah.
That one is that one's really an interesting thing to share. And it's what you just said about 1871. Let me go here really quick. Share, and it's right here. This is District of Columbia, the code of the District of Columbia, and you go down to H. The United States is located in the District of Columbia. I mean, it's like, what is that about? And then this one's my
Canada again, everybody. Right beside Canada. Canada, as I mentioned in the beginning, Canada is headquartered on Pennsylvania Avenue. Canada and America are headquartered in the District of Columbia as business entities. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, and then there's the last one that I want to share is this one's one of my favorites because it really shows that the United States and the United States and the United States of America are two separate things. This is the unsworn declarations of under penalty and perjury. And this is, if executed without the United States, I declare under the penalty and perjury of the laws of the United States of America. So without the United States. And this one, if executed within the United States, its territories under penalty and perjury that are foregoing is true and correct. So it just really shows that there's two separate things. The United States of America is still here. The Republic is still here, but but the United States, if you go into the court system under that jurisdiction, you're going to be under those rules and laws. Right. So I had like the Captain Matt, who's interviewed in my book, Great Maui Land Grab. He actually went to court and would not go under their jurisdiction. So much so that the judge left the room. Because
so the judge vacated the bench because did you say Captain Matt is a fire chief of the Lahaina Fire Department?
Oh no, he's actually a retired fire captain of 33 years. Wow. And he was in the tub, but he went to the tub. He's in California. He went and saw the Tubbs fire.
Wow.
And saw everything that happened with that. And so him and we've done many interviews on the fire in Lahaina.
One of the points I wanted to make, the distinction here, is you have a firefighter not trained in law by a law school like Harvard, Stanford, etc., legal system, who has a couple of pieces of paper and scares the shit out of a man who dresses up and calls himself a judge and wears a black robe. A man who dresses up, wears a black robe, calls himself judge. Giving a little bit of a sovereign lesson here for people.
Yep.
And scares the shit out of him that he vacates the ship and hightails it right off the bench. Vacates the ship, which, by the way, in divine common law court, if that happened, then they actually go to jail. So a guy who's been fighting fire all his years, scares a judge.
He's no longer paying property taxes, and he's doing a lot of stuff. This guy's very brave.
écoute, in regard, no longer paying property taxes. Michelle, would you mind just touching on that? You don't have to give the full lesson because once again, it's in deathofreedom.com. Michelle's book, 5-time award-winning author. But please just touch on the property so he doesn't pay property taxes. I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he actually has the allodial title, which is the key. The allodial title of your property is really the key to this. And he's actually sent the tax when he's gotten bills and stuff. He's actually written them and told them that they can be personally responsible for the harassment that they're doing on him, because he's actually also said, where is your name on my title? And so it's he when he went to the judge and he would not let them be he would not allow them to trick him. And that's all it is. It's trickery. It's absolute trickery in there. What happened was when the judge came back to the room, the judge started to plea for him, which they can't do. They're not supposed to do. He says, you're going to plea not guilty, and we're going to take this to another court date. But he said, I heard the audio. It's in one of my videos on YouTube. But this man is so brave. But the allodial title is what's key, you guys. So if you have property and you're wondering how not to pay property tax, the first thing you got to look up is your allodial title, and that goes all the way back to the first person that has your property. I believe there are other ways to do that as well. I'm just not familiar with them.
That's all you need is one way, and that's a right way right there. I have also put the link on the screen. It's pretty simple. In case people can't remember how to spell what it looks like, but we don't have that here. We have a smart, awesome audience. Deathofreedom.com takes right over there, and you order the book. So then you just heard about it. How many people enjoy paying property taxes? And if you're out of the state of Florida, you're still going to have to do it anyway because DeSantis removed it. And like DeSantis said, echoing the comments that Elon Musk said last year during his reign with Doge, he goes, property taxes really are illegal because you're paying rent on a property you already own to somebody who doesn't actually own your property. So that's illegal. And then DeSantis passed the law in Florida, no more property taxes for American, and he echoed that same thing. So here you have it.
That's
how wonderful. To get your royal title, what happened with 1871, the actual coup for America. They used Canada as the precipice to go, this is how we're going to steal it. This is how we're going to set it up. And we're going to see how it goes. And over the next 4 years, they did the same thing in 1871 with America. And now you have it once again, everybody, in 2017. President Trump's administration sent out writs of quo warranto to 3,133 counties, all the sheriff departments, all the police departments, all the county clerks, the judges, every administrative body in all 50 states, the governors, and all of the administrators under there, and then also the courts, and reminded them that if you are being surreptitious or engaging in sedition and treason against the Constitution of America and not doing your true civic duty by following these laws and the actual articles which we have in the country of America, the nation, the sovereign nation, not the corporate country, then you will be held to account. And now we know being held to account is through a military tribunal because the Law of War Manual was updated in 2025. Well, sorry, the 2023 update allowed for any non-governmental official, which means business owner, school board trustee, Uber drivers, you name it, Starbucks managers who are engaging in war crimes or racketeering or corruption or organized crime, or might be a member of a designated foreign terrorist organization or are funding a designated foreign terrorist organization, they are subject to military tribunals. And that is a law of the land for the following countries: US, America, Republic, and the corporation, Canada, Crown Corporation, the United Kingdom, Ireland, Scotland, Australia, and New Zealand.
That's right.
Anybody is subject to military tribunals, and the penalty for that would be life imprisonment or execution when found guilty in a military court of law, which is a divine common law court of law, not the legal bar system. And those are typically 2-hour trials and very, very serious consequences here. So Michelle, you're giving us incredible information, ammo, so people can basically have no reason to complain that I don't know about paying property taxes. I don't know what to do with my school board. I don't know what to do with my county. They keep passing these laws. I wish somebody would do something. 6.5 years into this overt warfare. And what's next? What do you see that's coming up? Do you have anything here to share with people? They could follow you, any speaking engagements as well?
Yeah, I'll be speaking again at the Red Pill Expo in July. Where you can go to redpilluniversity. I think it's .org. Also, my YouTube channel is actually my Blossom Wellness. That's my YouTube channel. It's I've had a strike almost every 90 days for the past 1.5 years on YouTube, but I keep going. And what I really would love people to do is, again, look at your general plan, look at your legislative bills that are coming down. You've got to speak up, because if you don't, I mean, the governor wanted all of our children on all of the islands to be fully vaccinated to go to any school.
Yep.
We fully fought that. We had a whole event. We brought in Mickey Willis, Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Ryan Cole, Jimmy Dore to 4 islands, and we had a citizen memorandum of 1,300 signatures that I took to the legislative body on the first day of their session and showed them we do not want this, and they didn't even put it on the bill. So you guys, we do have power. You just have to follow your heart, and you got to step up. That's why you're here. You're not here just to work and retire at 65 or whatever it is, and have your own little plot of land. You're here to actually make a difference in this world, to help make the world a better place. And we got this. We just taking our one step at a time and following our hearts, which you're definitely doing, Brad. So thank you so much.
You're most welcome. And I take everybody back to the website here, because this is the #1 new release, Amazon hot new release, The Death of Freedom, right here by Michelle. But again, order from her whatever you can do. And I would say order in bulk. Here's the foreword written by G. Edward Griffin, just a part of it. This is what he says, this freaking hero in my books. As you turn these pages, I hope that you will feel the same urgency that animated patriots in every age, the resolve to stand as free individuals against the forces of tyranny and collectivism. Freedom is never more than a few generations away from extinction, but it is also that close to revival. That's and what's true. Also great here on the deathoffreedom.com website is you can order in bulk. So you can get your 1 copy, 3, or in 5. I encourage everybody, basically you're getting 2 free copies. You order the 5 and get it out there. Because the moment, in my expectation here, the moment you start reading this and you have the forms to use in the education, and then all of a sudden you're telling your friends and you're not paying property taxes and you're reversing that, hey, the kids aren't going to be vaccinated in order to go to school before we can figure out how to pull them out of school, and homeschool them. All this other stuff, stopping the tyranny upon you, people are going to be like, well, teach me, tell me. You could just give them the book. Maybe they pay you $20 or you just donate it to them because of what you're going to save in property taxes alone, because everybody could leverage that minimum. But I would hope you're starting for the families and your communities and the children and the generations moving forward, and then also taking your action with the property tax side. So final question to you as we close out here right now, Michelle. You're not a lawyer, you're not a medical doctor, you're not a politician. Poly means many, ticks, everybody means parasites. So you're not that, you're not brought up in school. You're a fitness trainer who then saw something and got involved. What was that defining moment that made you say, F this, I need to do something? What was it for you?
It was the COVID. It was when they locked down, when they, Hawaii, we had it really hard here. 30% of our businesses closed forever. And that I started speaking out against that. We protest. I actually did a health summit, a live health summit where I live streamed Peggy Hall and Dr. Mary Ruwart. And I actually looked it up. I looked up, and the Hawaiian Islands, every single year for 6 years, we had more deaths from the regular flu than we did of COVID in 2020. And so we protested on the street every single week for 6 months. And I wouldn't stop. We actually took the Big Island police chief and complained against him and 5 officers that tried to harass us because we were going into stores without masks on. And we took them to the police commissioner. And even though we got a letter back saying there wasn't enough evidence, the Big Island police chief retired 2 months after that. So you guys, this was 5 of us. This was 5 of us that kept going, with these actions, and we're making a difference. And so I just read that's what started. And then when the Maui fire happened, when our governor went to the United Nations and said the fire happened because of climate change, that's when I was like, no way. You guys, I have so much evidence that the climate narrative is not true. You can actually go to World Climate Declaration, and you'll click on that. And there's over 2,000 credentialed scientists around the world that have signed a document that says there's no climate emergency. Climate change happens every second of the day, but there's no climate emergency. What's happening is man-made, and it's attack on the other people. And if we don't do it, if we don't do anything, if you don't think it's coming for you, it's going to be coming for you.
You're the Joan of Arc of the Hawaiian Islands, as far as I'm concerned, and the Lee Dundas for the Polynesia side there, as far as I'm concerned. Wow. It's absolutely amazing, and mahalo nui noa to you and everybody here as well. Definitely, I encourage everybody, after you've placed your order for a couple of copies of the books at deathoffreedom.com, then you share this show, wake up more people, because not only is there the education, there are also the steps to take action. And you just heard right there what one woman, what 5 people can do to step back, push back, and even Captain Matt, as a firefighter of over 3 decades, and what he was able to do to scare the pants off a man dressing himself up in a black robe, calling himself a judge, ran out of the room with a couple of words and papers. That's it. It's remarkable. Thank you so much for what you do, Michelle. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll talk to everybody soon. Cheers.
Aloha.
Aloha. Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our blinged Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm, let us know.